We are back on the trail after leaving Salida. Our hitch in was another one of those unexpected events that happens. James and John picked us up and we rode with John into town. Just the night before we met them, I had asked that I figure out how I can access my heart again. And I gave Mother Earth some offerings of tobacco. And within the first 20 minutes of being in John's car with him, he started talking about how you can access your heart without even me telling him that that's what I've asked for, or without him even knowing why we're out here. So that was pretty interesting and pretty crazy. And then John brought us all the way to Hayduke's hideout. So we stayed for the 4th of July. John came and picked us up at the post office and brought us back up to the pass. And we did a nice interview with him. He's a very interesting character and knows or has been through, lived through a lot, and is trying to heal himself and figure out his healing process and what that is. So we're back on trail and we've been having consistent ups and downs, and these ups and downs are at least 1,000 vert climb, taking it out of us. So we gotta get back at it.
It's always kind of rough going back on the trail after these long absences in town. It's been about 6 days since we were hiking. We got off trail on Thursday and now it's Tuesday. I think it was kind of good timing though to take a long break. It was really nice to just celebrate the 4th of July and relax. We met a whole bunch of good people at the Hayduke's hideout. Some of them were Colorado trail hikers and some of them were CDT hikers. So it's kind of cool just to share stories and get to hang out with some other hikers for a little bit. We haven't really done that since Pie Town and the Toaster House. It's kind of a cool thing about these hangouts with other hikers is that since we're all doing this kind of really serious, important thing, it's very challenging. We all kind of have deeper reasons for being out here. We're able to kind of skip past a lot of that really shallow small talk that you end up sharing with people that you don't know very well, and we can kind of dive right into deeper conversations.
Also at the Hayduke hideout, I just wanted to say that we had met another group of hikers and made some more friends. And in the beginning, I can see how I am coming off as standoffish. I am very intimidated by people and I am very shy. And it takes me a bit to open up and like be happy and joke around people, but eventually I will come around. And this last group of hikers, there was a girl there named Sauce. And I think that was kind of the exact situation, but she's super nice and super cool. I think it takes a big person to come over that and to keep trying and to be friendly with somebody. So I'm working on it. And I think I might be getting better, but we'll see.
But after like 4 0 days, eating lots of food, I've noticed that our bodies kind of shift modes once we go into town, and especially once we're in town for a long time. I think the body realizes that, okay, we're not hiking and it's time to recover. And so there's different processes that go on inside the body where it starts putting all of its energy towards repair. But I think for that full recovery process to complete, we'd have to stay in town for like 3 weeks. So that's not going to happen. So we get back out on trail, the body is still in recovery mode, and we just have no energy to hike. That always makes this first day back on trail kind of rough. Barney got a new poncho. Well, an old poncho that she hasn't been using up until now. And it's very fitting that it's purple. That thing looks way drier than what you've been wearing.
Yeah, my stuff's gonna stay dry.
This is pretty interesting. We're at a pass way up on the ridge on the Continental Divide. And this area used to be used by the ancient hunter-gatherers that used to live here for thousands of years. They built walls up here out of rocks, and then they would corral elk and other game animals into these corrals, and they would corner them, and that's how they got their food. This was an ancient hunting ground for thousands of years. I just have low energy today, and my body just doesn't want to hike today. So everything's just a little bit more difficult. We've got a 1,300 foot climb coming up. Then we go back down like 1,000 feet, then we go up 1,000 feet. It's going to be lots of big ups and downs for the next few days, I think. But we should be getting into some really good scenery. So as we get further and further into these hikes, the gear starts failing. It just gets worn out after a while. Amy just had a piece of gear fail on her. You want to show us what broke?
What is your problem?
We're hiking up an old railroad grade right now from about 100 years ago. And along the way there are these informational signs. First one talked about a sharp bend in the tracks, which was a dangerous spot because the train would come in fast. And then there's a sharp turn, and oftentimes the whole train would derail and flip over. We take this stuff for granted nowadays, that this kind of infrastructure exists, but I always like putting myself in the positions of these people 100, 150 years ago, having to operate this kind of heavy machinery way out in the wilderness. It's pretty amazing what people were able to do even that long ago. It kind of puts some context into these areas that we're hiking through. It's not always just wilderness. There's a lot of history that we're hiking through too, and those are always kind of interesting.
I also got a brand new pair of shoes in Salida. My other shoes were about done. I got like 700 miles on them. They started tearing and stuff. But a very kind and generous man had bought me my shoes and sent them to Salida. I've never even met this man. I've never even talked to him. And he bought me those shoes. And they couldn't have been in more perfect timing. We've had a whole bunch of scree walks this section, and without these thicker new shoes, I think that it would have been pretty detrimental to my feet. So yeah, that's cool.
We're in the middle of what I think is our biggest single climb on the hike so far, at about 1,800 feet. It's just switchback after switchback after switchback, going straight up a mountainside. The kind of headspace that you get into on climbs like this is much different than when you're hiking on flat ground or going downhill or in some scenic area or something. I think that's one of the things that's so useful about through hiking. The kind of walking that we're doing out here is constantly changing, and with each change in type of walking comes a change in a headspace too. When we're walking on flat ground and the walking is kind of mindless and easy, the mind just tends to wander into all different kinds of places, but it's very aimless. During the really scenic areas, for me that kind of takes me out of my own head, and it allows me to just really be in the moment and just enjoy what I'm seeing. And then on these climbs, it's another different headspace. Because the climbs are uncomfortable and kind of painful, it really forces us within ourselves. And I think it kind of allows us to get into a deeper mindset, and it removes a lot of the clutter, a lot of the distractions that comes with aimless daydreaming. So these climbs, even though they're uncomfortable, they're also useful. Well, we kind of screwed up on the food situation for this section. I'm not really sure how that happened. Amy and I didn't bring nearly enough snacks, and the dogs have been going through their food way faster than we expected. I think we've also been going slower than expected too. We've been struggling to do 15 miles a day in these mountains. There has been just so much elevation change. We're always climbing or going down. But luckily there is a road that we can hitch into Buena Vista. That's about halfway. We were hoping to skip that town so we could do this 80-mile section instead of 240s. At this point we don't really have a choice, so we're going to try and hitch into Buena Vista, get some more food, and then hitch back out to the trail all within the same day. We'll see how that goes.
Snow?
It's early afternoon and the rain is on its way. We are almost to Cottonwood Pass, which we will try and hitch a ride to Buena Vista, resupply real quick, and then hitch a ride back out, and hopefully we'll get back out here tonight. A lot up in the air still, so who knows what's going to happen. We just went over our third pass of the day within like 7 miles, so it's just been constant up and down. And we're back. That was remarkably efficient. I think we got to the pass at like 12:30 or 1. Took a little bit to find a hitch, but we got our hitch into town. Got dropped off at the grocery store. While we were at the grocery store, this guy started talking to us, and he offered us a ride out of town. And we told him we were ready in like half an hour, because we had to go get some hamburgers first. So he met us at the hamburger place and he brought us right back up here. And now it's like 3:30. We had the luxury of walking through a river valley for a couple hours this morning. That was nice and flat and easy. That was pretty short-lived. And now we're back to the climbs. And so we begin our last big climb of the day. We've already climbed about 2,400 feet, and this one's going to be about 1,700 feet. The dogs actually look tired for once. That's the first. And even though I'm sure Amy's in pain, she's pushing through it, and we're going. There's some people coming down from the pass we're climbing up. Not much of a pass, but I guess it's lower than the surrounding ridgeline. Well, even though we could have gone a little bit farther today, this place is just way too cool to pass up. All we had to do was find a spot among all of these Colorado Trail hikers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 groups of tents. It's been a problem lately. Every time we pick a good campsite, there's already a whole bunch of tents set up there by the time we get there. So we get to start the morning off easy again with a long downhill just through a river valley, so it's nice and gradual. And later on today we're going to have the biggest single climb of our entire hike. It's going to be like, I think, over 2,500 feet, and there's going to be a section that's 1,100 feet and 0.8 miles, so it's going to be steep. But that'll be our last climb, and then it's all downhill from there to Twin Lakes. And so it begins.
I want to take a break first.
Alright.
Get some water in me.
You gotta prepare for this one. Our campsite last night was super cool at Lake Ann, but also super crowded. Like, the most crowded I've ever seen a wilderness area. There was probably 50 people there at least. And I kind of have mixed feelings about that, because I always encourage more people to go out into the wilderness, and that's a big motivation behind this documentary, is to encourage people to go out into the wilderness, to kind of find their own meaning and kind of get in touch with the way people used to live and remember the forces that shaped us. But at the same time, I like my solitude, and I don't come out here to mingle with people. So it's always disappointing when you come across an area like that that's just very crowded. But I think that's just something that we have to live with. I think in the long run, in the big picture, the more people that get outside, the better. But it's going to come at a cost, because it was obvious that there are a lot of inexperienced people camping there last night. They stayed up kind of late, they were kind of loud, it was kind of disrespectful in certain ways. And I think that just comes with experience. You kind of learn what the proper etiquette is out here, and everybody has to go through that process. I know I did. Nice back. And pits. Yeah, my back was soaked too. For some reason the climbing seems to be just a little bit less grueling once you get above tree line. For me at least, having these big open spaces, it's like energizing or something. It motivates me and it takes my mind off of the suffering just a little bit. So we're spending about 12 hours a day being active when we're hiking, which is obviously way more than regular life, even for active people. And I've noticed that when I compare trail life to my regular life, that there are some major differences in my mind and body and soul too. When I think of being in tune with my body on the surface level, it's a physical thing. I can feel when a part of my body needs some attention, whether that's stretching or rest or anything like that. I can always kind of feel the overall health of my body, and I'm way more in touch with that than I am in regular life. On a more deeper level, I think what it does is that it kind of brings my mind down into my body, because kind of during my regular life, especially during the desk job days when I'm just on the computer all day, my mind is in my head all the time. I'm not really paying attention to my body, and my entire consciousness basically lives up here. And it's kind of like a narrow band of reality that I'm living in. Out here, since we're spending so much time moving and just using our entire bodies, my mind is drawn down into my entire body, and my consciousness actually lives throughout my entire body. It's not just trapped inside my head. It makes us more well-rounded, and it kind of just makes us more of a whole machine instead of this like compartmentalized thing where some pieces work up here, some pieces work down there, and they never really communicate with each other. It just makes our entire being more connected. When the mind and the body are fully connected and in constant communication with each other, I think what that does is that it opens up kind of a pathway for the soul to reside. These are all pretty new concepts to me, and I have a hard time putting them into words. The better I understand it, the more sense it'll make, I think. What'd you get in the mail?
So, when I put in my notice at work, and my last day, my boss was on a business trip and he was unable to say goodbye. So I tinfoiled his whole office, everything in his office. And my job just sent me a package, and they sent me a big old ball of tinfoil.
And a
And
rather
really
expensive box, probably. It's an expensive prank.
yet, and I was trying to track down an invoice. I'm struggling to be able to find it in my email. Dynojet.